Hello and welcome back to the Stationary Dev. Today, or in this video, it might not be day for you, we are covering what I believe are three underrated blue fountain pen inks that are out there that if you don't know about or haven't seen, I think you should check them out. These are inks that I think often get overlooked or maybe overshadowed, just not talked about or not considered a lot of times, but are really great inks, and I think more people should use them or at least just be aware of them and put them in the running of consideration. So the first one is one that I hardly ever see get mentioned. And it's one of my probably top three favorite blue inks ever. And that is this one right here, Monteverde Capri Blue. This was actually one of the first inks that I ever got. But it is Capri Blue. It's a beautiful blue ink. It's a lighter blue, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So it's a Monteverde. It comes in these ginormous, I believe these are 90 milliliter, 90 milliliter or 3 ounce bottles here. You can get the little 30 milliliter bottles of it as well. And let me show you. And let me tell you why I think that this ink is a great ink. I'll go ahead and do a swatch and I'll talk while I'm going. So as you'll see, it's an absolutely gorgeous lighter or brighter colored blue ink. You can kind of see a little bit of a spoiler there. It's similar to Konpeki, Roshizuku Konpeki. It's sort of in that family, I would say, but it is less turquoisey. So it's firmly blue. It is a blue ink. It's not a turquoise ink. It's not a teal ink. It is very, very blue ink. But it absolutely jumps off of the page. No matter what pen you put it in, it pops off of the page. It's well behaved. It's a very wet ink, so it feels good and everything. As you'll see a little bit over here, it does have some sheen to it as well. It has a very faint sort of pinkish sheen to it, and it's absolutely beautiful blue ink. I've never had problems writing with it. It's just one of my favorites. I love inking my Lamy 2000 with this ink. It just makes that ink window pop, and it just jumps right off the page. And you'll see as it dries, it has that pinkish sheen to it. Very wet writer. So let me see. Let me find something to label these with. I'll just do it with the black Sharpie pen because why not? And this is Monteverde Capri Blue. And these aren't necessarily in any particular order, but just inks that I love. This one does happen to be one of my favorite inks overall, but no particular order in terms of like best to worst. So that is number one, Monteverde Capri Blue, and we'll take a look at it closer when it dries. The next ink, I'll put this one up. The next ink that I think is a massively overrated, or underrated, not overrated at all, underrated ink is Sailor Blue ink. Just Sailor, regular old, basic Sailor Blue. And used to be called Sailor Gentle Blue, but now it's been rebranded, and this is just in their standard line. They have a blue, black, and a black ink. And I think they might have a red as well. It's cheap. You can see it's only $12.50. I guess when I bought this one, and you get 50 milliliters. It's in their gorgeous bottle that they put all their inks in, their Manyo inks and all that. This sort of square glass bottle. My sticker just happens to be a little off center there, but it's a beautiful bottle. You don't hear people talking about that at all. Beautiful Sailor bottle. And it's just their basic blue ink, but you'll see when I put this down, it does a lot of good stuff. So, Sailor Basic Blue. I would say this is the most interesting and most all-around best basic blue ink. And when I say basic blue, I mean it's just like the company's blue ink, just like Pelikan 4001 Royal Blue or Waterman Serenity Blue, any of those. I'd say it covers a lot of bases for just a regular old blue ink. But it's far from regular, I'd say. I think you can already kind of see, and this is just on Rhodia paper as well, so make sure, so just keep that in mind in terms of like what the sheen and stuff that you'll see. It's just plain old Rhodia 80 GSM. You can already see that it's a darker blue than other regular run-of-the-mill blue inks. It's darker. You'll see it has some amazing shading, and you'll also see as this dries it has some bronzy reddish sheen, and it has that sheen on most pen and paper combinations that I've used it with. Even not so good paper, this sheen comes out. I've used this on office paper, on copy paper, and that sheen still shows on those papers. It's a absolute great ink. You can use it in any situation. You can use it for business. It works for business. I've used it there. But it's also interesting enough that you can use it for a sheener. You can use it for a shader. You can use it in your journal or something just as an interesting blue ink. But you can see that it's also, darker than you would think for like a royal blue or something like that. That's a normal basic blue ink. And you'll see as that dries how that comes out there. Alrighty, let me put the Sailor Blue up and we'll get to my last pick for an underrated blue ink. It's another basic blue ink. It's one that a lot of people get as sort of like a bonus or a side to their pens, and that's how I got it as well. But it is just Pilot Blue. Also, Namiki Blue is the same exact ink, just branded different under the Namiki name, but it's the same exact ink. This is Pilot Blue. It comes in this 70 milliliter bottle. It's Japanese ink. And let's get a swatch down on this one. You can see how it compares to these other two, and also why I think it's a great one as well. It's a Pilot ink, so it's hard to go wrong with Pilot inks ever. So it's going to be dependable. It's going to be a great ink. Get a swatch down. And we can compare it to the other two as well. Didn't get as much ink on that one as I wanted. You can kind of see the difference between a dry and a wet nib here. And there's our Sailor Blue. It's probably the closest to a basic blue that we have between these, but I find if you compare it side by side, it's not as dark as a regular basic blue. It's less purple, so it's definitely blue. It's not purpley blue or anything like that. It is a true blue fountain pen ink. What I like about this one is, like I said, it's different than other basic blues. It's a lighter color, but still very business appropriate. But also, I think it falls in that calming shade of blue that you can use even in your personal writing. A lot of times, I think this blue ink is overshadowed by Pilot Blue Black, which is a fantastic ink. But I think a lot of people discredit or look over Pilot Blue and just go straight to Pilot Blue Black. Or something like that. I think you should really consider Pilot Blue as well, or use it if you have it, because it's a great ink. It's all of these three are wet writers, so they feel great in the pens. They're not going to harm your pens in any way. They're very dependable. You can use them in a variety of situations. And so that is my last pick, and you can kind of see in comparing it to the Sailor that it is sort of a lighter, bluer blue. On the page. And so my last pick is just Pilot Blue. So just for this last one, it's just a solid all-around performer. It's not flashy, it's not fancy, it's just a different color and a dependable ink that I think more people should consider, either for one of their first inks or just for a good basic blue. Everybody needs a good basic blue, a good basic black in their collection. And so I think people should give these two a running, as well as the Monteverde Capri blue, but it's a really interesting one too. While we're waiting on these to finish up drying, I almost included Pilot Roshizuku Asagao, just because it's, number one, it's in the top 3 of my favorite blues as well. It's a gorgeous shade. I think it gets overshadowed by a lot of the other Roshizuku colors, but it's hard to say that an Roshizuku ink is underrated because everybody knows that they're great inks, and you know, so I can't really put it in the underrated category, but I considered it for the list. Also, before we take our last look on here, let me know what your pick for an underrated blue ink is. There's tons of blues out there. Like I said, I haven't tried every blue ink. I haven't tried a whole bunch of blue inks. It's probably the most common shade or common color in my ink collection, but there's a lot out there that I'm unaware of. So what's your favorite underrated blue ink? Comment below and let me know, and we'll take a look at these. So we can see that the Pilot Blue's the fastest drying, I would say. It's already completely dry. There's just a hint of pink sheen on that edge there that you can see. But it might have a little bit of shading, but not too much. It's just pretty much just a flat, interesting, but beautiful ink color. The next quickest drying is probably Sailor Blue there. And you can see it's a darker blue. It will have shading. You can see sort of the difference between like a really dark application. Even if you just compare this color to this color, you can see that there will be some shading. It's almost to a blue-black sort of consideration there. But it is their basic blue ink. And so that's why I included it here. And you can see that bronzy sheen that I was talking about. It comes out in every paper and every pen that I've used it with so far. And I just get wowed with it. It does everything that you want an ink to do. If you want an ink to sheen, it's got the sheen. If you want an ink to shade, it's got the shading. If you want to use it at work, you can. If you want to use it in your journal, you can do that as well. It's just the most all-around ink. It's super dependable, super affordable. I don't know why more people don't have a bottle of Sailor Blue. But there's my rant on that. You can see that bronzy red sheen. And then the last one, Monteverde Capri Blue. And you can see how it just pops out. In comparison to those other two, it just pops off of the page. And it's just a happy, summery blue that I just absolutely eat it up every time I use it. It hasn't dried all the way, so it might be a slower dryer. It does have, I think it probably has more, dye to it. And around the edges, you can just start to see as it's drying there, some of that pinkish sheen. But it only comes out, as you can kind of tell, it only comes out in sort of the right conditions. So the right pen, the right paper. If you're writing on Tomoe River, you'll see it. If you're writing with a wetter pen, you'll be able to see it. But otherwise, I don't think it shades as much. It does shade a little bit, but I don't think it shades at least as much as the Sailor Blue, but it does shade a little bit. It has just a hint of that sheen that usually appears around the outside of the letters. And it's a very, very wet ink, but it just keep in mind it might be a little bit slower drying, but it's only on that corner up here where I really put it down heavy. The rest of it's completely dry over here. So those are my picks for underrated blue inks that I think everybody should know about and consider, or at least take a look at, because they're amazing. Make sure if you enjoyed this video and want to see others like it, you can leave a like and subscribe. It's easy, it's free, takes no time, and it helps out the channel a ton, and it'll let you see new content when I release it every week. And until next time, like I said, let me know what's your favorite underrated blue ink, or I guess underrated ink. Did you agree with mine? Have you heard of these or seen these before? Have you considered these ones before? Let me know in a comment below. And until next time, I'll catch you later.